Yeah. I got a teaching coach. But I still tell our story as a scare tactic. Everybody's hearing works?
When you were with him early on, before he left to go to Wisconsin-Berry, could you identify the traits of a head coach in Bret Bielema?
I think, coaches, regardless of whether they're head coaches or assistant coaches, I think they come in all sizes and shapes. It's just everybody's a little bit different, and who's to say that one way is better than the other? What goes around comes around in a period of time. It's a complex game. It's hard to win all the time. You're not going to win all the time. You're going to have a bad year now and then. And it's not just 1 to 2 days, to do it. I think what I remember about that, was the fact that he was an extremely hard worker. He cared about young people. He had good knowledge and spent time gaining significant knowledge about the game of football itself, and he was a demanding coach as well. So, and it was fundamentally sound. He was a position coach and really had a good teaching format for the youngsters that we taught.
Coach about this just a moment ago. He doesn't like facing his former guys. Can you give us a sense for how you feel about that?
Yeah, I tell you, I had I shared a lot of commonalities with Coach. We were both at Iowa there together at the same time. I actually played with Sean, his son, and Sean and I are the same age. I remember him pulling up in his little sports car, and him and his now wife got out. I remember when they were moving in on moving day when I first saw Sean. So we had that experience, and then when Coach brought me to Kansas State, I left my alma mater, Iowa, and I remember leaving there. I was crying like a baby, and I was going to work for Coach Snyder, and I remember how hard it was for me to leave Iowa, and quickly got into a recruiting battle with Iowa and a couple kids, and lost some friendships, and I remember Coach Snyder grabbed me, and he knew I was really struggling with it, because you want to leave a great memory of where you went, but I'm like, Coach, I didn't do anything wrong, but it's just, recruiting, you wear that on your heart, you wear it on your sleeves, and you lose a lot more friends in recruiting than you do on game day, and he made that reference to me at the time. It didn't make sense, but I've played so many coaches now that I've either coached against, or that I've coached with, good friends. I've gone back and played my alma mater several times, when I was at Wisconsin, and it's always a special feeling, but it's not that difficult for me. I think it's a professional thing, but when I go into home and I'm recruiting against Coach Snyder, I'm never going to say, we don't talk anything about our opponents, but when you're in those situations, it's a little bit easier to, when you don't know the coach, and they're like, we're going to beat them, this is why we're better than that. It's always a little more difficult, I think, on the recruiting than it is on the game.
I asked Coach Snyder, about y'all's relationship over and over and over, but you only worked together for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, we saw each other a lot.
It's like they develop quickly.
Yeah, I think also because Sean and I were friends. Sean started off as a punter in Iowa, barefoot punter, and things didn't go very well for me with Kansas State, turned into an All-American. So that was really the only struggles we had my senior year was the punter. It was kind of too bad he didn't close it out with us, but I think Coach Snyder, I love to grind, and when I was assistant at Kansas State, I wasn't married, no issues. I loved to grind, and I went there to get better professionally, and he was a sponge. I'd wear him out. I'd write a lot of notes, throw it in his box. He let me run punt return. Obviously, as a co-coordinator on defense, so we spent a lot of time together. And then he didn't allow coaches to go out and recruit all that much. He always used to say, "There's nobody more important than the players you have on campus." So we didn't, for me in recruiting, every moment that we can be out, I want our coaches out recruiting. But his philosophy was to really focus on player development and stay close. So. I distinctly remember hopping on a plane and flying with him to LA to recruit a junior college linebacker. and it was just he and I on the plane. We started going over the mountains, and it started bouncing around pretty good. And I was young, I had never really flown on a private plane before, you know, and it started bumping around, and it just kept riding. And the damn little purple marker just kept riding, and finally all of a sudden, you know, it was really bumping, and he just grabbed the plane seat, and he looked at the pilots and he said, "Calm this down." Like they had any control. You know, that's when I realized he was a real power freak. In a good way, though, I really kind of enjoyed it, you know. And then I distinctly remember that trip because it was just he and I for like 2 or 3 days. You know, it was pretty cool. And then he gave me some great advice. I got offered a defensive coordinator job in the Big 12 at a school at that time. It was one of the lone schools that was really doing up tempo. And I went to him and asked him about it, and he said, "You don't want that job for this reason, boom, boom, boom." And, you know, the guy that took it ended up getting fired like a year and a half later, and I was always saying, because he really gave me some great advice. I interviewed for the Ball State head coaching job. I was only 29 years old, and he said, "You don't want that job, you know, this is, you know, you gotta learn some more things." It was after my first year, so I stayed with him another year, and then the Wisconsin job came open. I was gonna be a lone coordinator up there, and he tried to talk me out of it, but I knew better, so I accepted the job when I was at Wisconsin and signed a contract, because I knew if I went back and saw him, he'd talk me out of it. And I knew that one was a good one, so he's been very influential. And then I know he shared stories. I've called him since I've left, even as a coordinator, as a head coach. Just if you're allowed the opportunity to be around someone of that type of caliber of wisdom, and he and I have always, for whatever reason, man, just always hit it off so far.
Coach Snyder seems to ask a lot of his assistants have demands that maybe some other coaches don't. Do you have a favorite story, preferably a humorous one that you had working for him?
Coaches, like I've always said, when I went to work for him, I'd already worked for Hayden Fry, I worked for Kurt Ferentz, I worked for Coach Snyder now, and then Barry Alvarez. I mean, 4 guys that literally are Hall of Fame coaches, you know, and everybody always wants to know how each one of them is a little bit different. I would say Coach Snyder was a guy that I learned, you know, the theory of leave no stone unturned, and then go turn them over again, because he's a meticulous detail guy. So if we were playing an opponent, like in January when we get done, and, you know, next year, you know, you're going to play your Big 12 schedule, but if the 4 non-conference, we would do probably 3 or 4 scouting reports on those opponents. Every month we would do a new scouting report. He did one in the spring, he did one in the summer, he did one in the fall camp, and then he did one the week of the game. So he ended up doing 4. And at first it seemed intriguing, but after a while it became a little monotonous. I was, this is kind of a devilish side of me. He was on a Nike trip, and I was kind of mad because he was taking the whole week off and we were working. So my co-coordinator and I, Bobby Elliott, found out that it was $1.25 for every sheet that he faxed in the boat. So we faxed him 150 sheets. Give him a little jab. I thought we'd hear about him when he got back, but he just kind of took them all in. To this day, I don't know if he realized that we were kind of pimping him a little bit. His 50 pages were blank.
Would you be sad if it was his last game?
I would say that I would be sad because he's done so much for the game, but I want him to enjoy life. He's done so much for us. You know, especially to come back. I mean, there's a lot of great coaches doing a lot of great things. To do it twice now in one career, that's like, you know, that's like something no one's done. To take it from where it's been when he first got there, and then obviously to repeat it again after kind of falling off. I mean, that's huge. But he looks great, man. I mean, the guy does not age. Him and Mo Adam, I haven't seen Mo in like 10 years. Mo and him must drink the same juice because they both look the exact same. You know, I just want Coach to be happy. And so there's a lot of carryover there. It's funny, I think Michael Smith, who obviously played for Coach and worked for us when I was there, when we're in meetings, he'll look at me when I do something really Snyderous. And he'll like give me a wink like, "Oh, let's go right there." It's kind of fun because there's a lot of what he does in our program I do every day. I know that we've done very well at Special Sellout, right?
Yeah.
I know our people were pretty excited. Every person I ran into in Arkansas, every gas station, every place I went, everybody's telling me they were going to see me in Memphis. I don't know if Coach Snyder cut a deal with the devil or what, but everybody at the Peabody's wearing purple today. I was kind of got the heebie-jeebies. I think it'll be a great environment. As we know, as Coach talks all the time, one of the 3 largest crowds to ever cross the state line. That, well, you guys probably heard it about 150 times. I I want to tell them there's no bowl games in Kansas, so you gotta cross the damn thing.